video for you guys. Today is March 6th, 2025. Today, we're going to be diving into a bunch of Bears news, flowing around. Obviously, we're going to be diving into everything that's happened in the last, I believe, 3 days. Got a few trades going on, players extended, some players are getting dropped off the team. Also, there's other news going on in the Bears organization. And then we'll get right to our edition with the UC chat, talking about the Blackhawks and the last games they've been playing over the last week. And we'll talk about, the Bulls games as well. If they won, they lost. Other Chicago sports news, and just like we do every podcast. But you guys know, my name's Tyler. I'm joined alongside
Daniel. How is everyone doing?
I'm doing great, man. Dude.
Here's my question: who has it better than Chicago fans in the offseason? Who has it better?
I don't think we're best city, man. We're the
best city in the offseason, whether it comes to the Bears, Cubs, Bulls. Off-season's the best. We enjoyed it. And as Tyler said, these last week that we haven't spoke to any of you has been a very, very busy week. Just when we thought that Bears were going to be slowing down just a little bit more after the hiring, oh, no. It's picking right back up here. Ryan Poles never sleeps. Ryan Poles does not own a bed. He does not own sheets. He does not own a nightgown. He does not sleep. He's awake at Hollis Hall.
I know there's all
hours straight.
I'm just talking, but I know there was all those memes going around, Bears organization. Like, where's Ryan Poles? Why is he sleeping? All of a sudden this week, he finally woke up and he's starting to get to it.
He's awake, bro.
Yeah.
Officially.
Like you're talking about, man, talking about Ryan Poles and everything. Let's get kicked off with the Bears discussion with you guys. And we got a lot of news to talk about the Bears. Last few weeks, obviously, last week was the combine. We're not going to talk about that too much today because, it's just kind of, players on the Bears radar.
It's like what ifs. Yeah.
What ifs, because a lot of players kind of shot up in the board and some players went down in the boards. Like, we'll talk about that as well. But, with the Bears discussion to kick you guys off, we had a few trades this week that the Bears ended up doing, which, in my opinion, I'm in love with these trades of the Bears. Dan, start us off. What was the first trade that the Bears did?
So the first trade was 2 days ago, less than 48 hours ago. So think about how fresh this is in a few of these players' minds. So on the 4th of March, the Ryan Poles decided to hit up the Rams there, and they discussed a trade to involve offensive lineman Jonah Jackson to the Bears for a 2025 6th-round pick. Now, we can discuss trades and how we feel about them, but it's a 6th-round pick. It's a 6th-round pick. This is a beautiful trade for the Bears, especially since we're getting a position that really helps us, even if it's someone off the bench, someone starting. We'll get into a little bit more of what brings Jonah Jackson to Chicago. So Jonah Jackson is 28 years old. He was a 3rd-round pick in 2020, and he went to Ohio State for college. He played 4 years in Detroit. He had 57 starts, and then 1 year in LA. He had 4 starts. Where those 57 starts that Jackson had as a Pro Bowler in Detroit was under Ben Johnson, which is our current coach at the moment. So they have a little bit of history together, which is nice to hear. And Jackson gave up 0 sacks on 494 attempts back in 2024. So that is 3 seasons ago, but it just shows you that he's still a veteran. He still has veteran leadership, and he played in the same offense as Ben Johnson. So that's very awesome to hear. He did only give up 2 sacks on 432 attempts in 2023. So that's probably some of the more recent stats we have. And then, unfortunately, in 2024, Jackson was injured, which plagued him for most of that season that he was in Los Angeles. But still, in the 181 snaps that he played, 0 sacks taken. So that's an amazing stat for someone who did go through injury a little bit later in that year. Chicago is going to be taking on the entirety of Jonah's contract. Last year, he signed I think it was like a 4-year or a 3-year, $51 million contract. So he'll be on the Chicago Bears, I believe, for the next 3 or 2 years. 3rd year might be an option. It's a bit pricey, but at the end of the day, it's a move that works really, really well. People have been comparing this to the Nate Davis deal. So here's what I'll say about that. The reason they're comparing is because they're both around the same price. The only difference is that they're both not the same position. Nate Davis excelled in one position only, and his one position was unfortunately a bad place for him to be in Chicago. Whereas Jonah Jackson has played all over the line. People were saying that he played really, really bad in Los Angeles. Well, that's because they put him at center, and he didn't play center his entire career. He's not going to be playing center in Chicago. That's for damn sure. So that's a pretty impressive thing for the Bears to do. It's let's call it this. It was the first trade of the new year. It was the first trade, and if any team in the new year for the NFL. So that's a big pickup because all of a sudden we're sitting here looking at stats of him, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, why wasn't he on our radar?" Right? Like this guy's in a phenomenal pickup. Let's get it down to bare bones real quick, and then we'll talk about the next few trades. So The 2025 6th-round pick that the Bears used to trade for Jonah Jackson was the pick that we got in return for Justin Fields from the Steelers.
Yeah, and that's why I see Peter in the chat did bring that up. He literally said FY in the same pick we used that trade for Justin Fields. Pittsburgh Steelers pick, obviously crazy to think about. This is I'm all for it, man. I think Jonah Jackson, a great player. Like you just said, it was unfortunate that he was, plagued with injury last season, but he was a Pro Bowler with Ben Johnson in Detroit. Ben Johnson clearly sees some in Jonah Jackson. He probably reached out to him and said, how you doing, man? How's your injury going on? He wouldn't just, in my opinion, Ben Johnson would not just, and especially Ryan Poles. Ryan Poles does not really sign a lot of players that have recent injury, past. But I think they wanted to take a risk on him because look at what he did 2 years ago and stuff. He was a Pro Bowler, or no, not Pro, but you said 100%. He was a Pro Bowler in Detroit. So in my opinion, it's worth the risk. A lot of people are saying $17.5 million. That was a false accusation. It is about $11 million. We were taking the cap for this season. Next season, we'll figure out what's going on with that. But I do love this. It's not bad at all. I am really high on Jonah Jackson right now. Obviously, I'm not as high as the other guy we traded for, but I really do think it's a depth piece. It could be a guy who could start in that, starting position. We'll see how the Bears view him if they decide to tackle another offensive lineman in the draft with that number 10 pick instead of Ryan Jonah Jackson. Know for sure he's the starter, or will they let him, slide him right into that starting role? I like this.
Yeah. That's the thing about Jonah Jackson is that put it again in a bare bones scenario, Jonah Jackson or Nate Davis. Those are the two options that we would have had if we did keep Nate Davis. So I'm taking Jonah Jackson any day over that. That's still an upgrade for me. He's someone that has phenomenal strength when it comes to the position that he wants to play, which is usually going to be guard. He's not a tackle. He could do snaps at center, but we'll get into a little bit on who we do think the future center is going to be for the Chicago Bears. That will be answered in the next few weeks, 100%.
Exactly.
So this is a really good pickup for us. I'm really proud of it. But am I more proud of this pickup rather than the next one? Tyler, are you going to give me a little bit on the next one here?
Let me tell you about this next trade, man. If you guys, obviously, I text Danny all these Bears things. I text all, I think Peter's in the chat right now. I text him all these Bears news. I'm texting Danny in the morning. I know he was still sleeping. I'm like, Danny, wake up. You have no idea what just happened. Wake up. There's news in the Bears organization. It started off with this guy might be traded. Bears are in talks of being traded. And about 15 minutes later, this already became into the Bears made an offer, and then the Chiefs already accepted this offer. And this player would be offensive guard Joe Thuney. Joe Thuney is a stud. This was exactly what the Bears needed, in my opinion. Obviously, when Trey Smith got franchise tagged by the Chiefs, that ruled out the possibility of the Bears trading or the Bears potentially signing him and letting him walk in free agency. But there's rumors that you can, trade for a franchise player, but they're more valuable. It'd be a first round pick and other stuff like that. When the Bears reached out to the Chiefs because they knew they had no cap space with re-signing Trey Smith, and then also, franchise tagging Trey Smith. And then they're also, I believe they just signed their center as well, the Chiefs. Yes. I forgot his name. That was a huge contract, highest paid center in the league. This, the Bears decided let's reach out to them. So the Bears are going to be sending a 2026 fourth round pick to the Kansas City Chiefs for Pro Bowl offensive guard Joe Thuney. And here's a little bit of stats about Joe Thuney. Joe Thuney is 32 years old, 3-time All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowl, and he's a 4-time Super Bowl champion.
I think he's one of the most Super Bowls out of any player ever in Chicago. Seriously.
That's crazy. Oh my God.
It's actually crazy.
He also did play for the Patriots, I meant. So he's a former Patriot, started his career with them, and then he played with Tom Brady and then got traded to the Chiefs, or he signed with them. I believe he signed. It was a 4-year deal, and then he played with Patrick Mahomes. And now let's talk about this, a little bit about some of his stats as well and how he's been as an offensive guard. He's allowed 7 sacks in the last 5 seasons. That's crazy, dude.
Dude, our whole lineman allowed more sacks in one season. Every lineman allowed more sacks this year than him in 5 years.
And he allowed 0 sacks in 2024. Think about that. Obviously, he is next to, Trey Smith on the line, but still, this is 0 sacks. That's crazy, man.
0 sacks.
2 career games he's missed in 9 seasons. And last season, I believe this was last season, he only had 1 penalty in 1,115 snaps. all of last season.
Mhm.
He's 12th in the league as an overall guard, graded wise by PFF, and then also 5th in the league as pass block, 23rd in the league in run block. I know the Chiefs this year was a little iffy on the run game, just kind of
It's also you need to have a good running back too, right?
exactly.
Like, yeah.
And Pacheco was hurt for a little bit. You might switch to P Ryan and stuff like that. But and then also 4.4% on pressure rate allowed, which is 3rd in the whole entire National Football League, man.
Mhm.
Dude. Oh my
That's
God.
crazy, dude. That's insane.
So
Those kind of stats.
Joe Tooney's going to be paid $15 million in 2025, and then he will be an unrestricted free agent in 2026. But from rumors around Twitter and everything like that, I don't think the Bears would trade for this guy if they're not going to sign an extension on him,
Yeah.
in my opinion. I think they're going to sign an extension to him. There's been reports out there and everything like that. But I know this is an awesome trade. You know, it's a good trade when I was watching ESPN and everybody switched the news. What they were talking about basketball. ESPN, I was watching Get Up. All the football reporters came in, had to discuss this. They said this was a great trade for the Bears. They did say this was a good trade for the Chiefs too, because they knew they couldn't, re-sign him as well next season and stuff like that. But Dan, what's your opinion on Joe Tooney? And
let's grade it. Let's give it a grade. I'm going to go ahead and grade this.
I'm going to go ahead and grade it. I'll compare. I'll tell you what it is after. But.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to give this an A-, simply because of the idea that he has the opportunity to sign or leave after one season. The way I look at him, though, is kind of like, hey, we're going to rebuild this entire offensive line. I think he's going to want to be here for that, especially after being with people like Brady and Mahomes. Like, if you're patient, good things will happen. So I think that's a big deal for me. That's the only thing. Otherwise, he is a phenomenal player. He's a stud. And like I said, I think he might be the most winningest player to enter Chicago. I mean, I don't know any other player that has won 4 Super Bowls that we've ended up signing or bringing into a practice squad. That's insanity here. So he's definitely he's gonna come in with crazy amounts of experience. And you know what I'm really excited about is that him and Darnell Wright are gonna work really well together. Darnell's gonna get a little bit more of a push because here's finally someone that comes in that isn't just like a second stringer on the Buffalo Bills or a backup on the Texans. This guy came in and he was the best player on the offensive line for at least 2 of those Super Bowls. So he's gonna come in here and he's gonna give a true identity to the offensive line. And I'm really excited about that because you look at his stats, 4.4% pressure rate allowed, 3rd in the NFL. I'm pretty positive that every single member of this Bears O-line last year was under 20th. Every single one of them had to have been. So this is just a phenomenal person to be playing on the line. Yeah. Very excited for it. What do you have to say?
I'm giving this an A- with you as well, man. It would be great if we can, have that contract already in place with him, with obviously talking about contract extension, but this is miles and miles above what the Bears had. I'm looking on Twitter and I'm looking at all these reporters talking about how the Bears have done already. They were already saying the Bears, Ben Johnson realizes how good an offensive line needs to be for a quarterback, especially like Caleb Williams, who's out of the pocket. Jared Goff for the Lions needed that good offensive line. The reason why is he's not a mobile quarterback. He can move a little bit, but he's not Caleb. And now when it comes down to, building this offensive line, it's about getting protection for Caleb. 68 sacks last season, man, for Caleb Williams. So it was a lot of sacks for him. And Ben Johnson, before free agency starts, is realizing, I could trade with these teams.
Yeah.
Joe Tooney, Jonah Jackson. I know we have a few things in the chat. I'm going to bring that up with Peter right now. He said Joe Jackson has 0 dead cap hit if we cut him. So obviously it sucks and we cut ties, but we won't take any penalties. And I agree. That's why I like this Jonah Jackson trade as well. And we see right here, he said Creed Humphrey.
Creed Humphrey is the center they signed. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously highest paid center right now. And then also he said, mind you, the PFF grades both left guard and right guard in the grade. So Joe Tooney is 22nd overall qualifying guard, not just left guard. And obviously, sure, y'all know this and how great he is. And I'm beyond excited for this. So
this is not what we expected, right? When it comes to players to come from the Chiefs, then that's pretty.
The Bears
pretty
realized that when Trey Smith got franchise tagged, there's only so many guards out there. The guard free agency this year is not good. In the draft, it's okay in the draft, but the free agency especially was not that good at all. And the Bears took advantage of that. Also, Jonah Jackson took advantage of that as well. Only giving up, what did we talk about? A 6th round pick for Jonah Jackson, right? We traded the Rams. I think it was a 6th-round pick, and then 4th-round pick for Joe Thuney.
Both picks that we're gonna forget about. I'm not thinking about you. Do we have so many picks this year? So that gives us 8 picks at the draft currently since we traded one of them.
And let me tell you guys,
thinking about a 6th-round pick, like
And now I'm not gonna pop a lower third up with this because I cannot type this in time. But we have breaking news out of the NFL right now, and I gotta tell you, this is big breaking news. Bengals edge rusher Trey Hendrickson has requested a trade, seek permission to get a trade from the Bengals. The highest sack leader, or the sack leader last season in the NFL, has just been granted permission to seek a trade. Ryan Poles, he's worth a lot, but let me tell you, man, this is, dude, we were talking about this last season, man. How high was I on Trey Hendrickson?
Big, yeah, high.
I was big on Trey Hendrickson. I really thought he was gonna, but then Bengals franchise tagged him, kept him for. Oh no, I'm sorry. They franchise tagged T Higgins instead. But
in terms of Bengals, though, like obviously, like we're talking Bears, but in terms of Bengals, is quite interesting because that means that T will get the contract if Trey Hendrickson is traded. T will get that contract and Jamar will get the extension, which means that they are definitely solidifying their offense before their defense because they did have a player that was released on the defensive line as well. Okay, that's pretty interesting. Bears, he's been on the Bears radar. Yeah, he's been on the Bears radar.
Because the Bears need another edge rusher to complement with Montez Sweat. And we'll get into that. We're at the end of this Bears discussion. We're going to talk a little bit about what should the Bears do at free agency. We have our picks. We're going to talk about, but I just wanted to bring that up. That Trey Hendrickson has seek permission to get a trade. I know Ryan Poles is going to look into it because he is a stud. He's a young talent. I believe he's 28, if I recall correctly. And I think that is a perfect age to potentially trade for. And I would give up some assets to get Trey Hendrickson to this team to help complement the Bears defense side of the ball. So let's get into some other news with the Bears, especially. I did see, we got Peter throwing in a chat right here. He said, and we're going to talk about this with signing as well. He said, here's a hot take for y'all. The Bears should not sign Drew Dalman, and the Bears should draft Will Campbell and start Will Campbell at center. Dalman is a very mediocre on the pass blocking. Now, he also thinks that Will Campbell is an all-pro potential center, kick inside due to his poor arm length, and obviously with the poor arm length, he disguised well with the guards as well. I think that's a good idea, man. But the only risky thing is if Will Campbell is going to be there at number 10 for the Bears. I know a lot of people think Will Campbell is going to be sitting there at number 10 for the Bears. I'm not 100% sure, though. Obviously, a lot of people saw him slip in the combine, arm length and those dimensions and everything like that kind of brought his value down. But is he going to be there at number 10 for the Bears? Will he? That is the risk.
I look at either way, these two players are both an upgrade for Chicago. So I'm fine with either of these individuals playing center. I think I would still lean towards Dalman just because we have the money and having someone that statistically has already been pretty prominent in the role at center. My biggest worry also is that Will Campbell could make a good center, but then we still need to find a position for left guard. So I still think we'll talk about draft scenarios and stuff like that, but I do think the Bears are going to be going pretty offensive line heavy free agency and the draft.
I do.
So we'll see exactly how that fits out. But Will Campbell was on my radar. If Dalman does get signed, then I don't think he's going to be on my radar any longer.
So if we attack, that might be a hot take too. Free agency, that you don't think, obviously, we're going to potentially go offensive lineman in the draft. Is that what you think?
I think so. I think so.
All right.
I think so. Just because of Ben Johnson, right?
I'm on the same boat as you, man. I really do think the same thing. And then we got Peter pointing up in the chat. Will Campbell is offensive lineman, super high Q and really strong, great foot speed and movement skills. He finishes blocks super well and is a leader on this offensive line. He's going to be a Pro Bowl talent, man. I really think Will Campbell is going to be awesome. It's just the thing is if he's going to be sitting at the Bears at number 10. It all depends on what's going to happen with if the Bears didn't win that game against the Packers, which thank God they did because I was there and it was absolutely awesome. But if they did not win that game against the Packers, we'd stand about the 7th or 8th pick. And then now we slip to the 10th. We'd probably get Campbell and knowing that we wouldn't need Dalman. But
there's also something worrying about a rookie center, I think. Yeah. Something that's a little bit worries me, especially with Caleb's abilities. I think a rookie center might be good, but I don't think Campbell day one is going to start kind of thing.
Sure. And we also see last thing that Peter put in here. He said Campbell has the flexibility to kick out to left guard need be, and that's true. That's true if Jonah Jackson doesn't pan out or anything like that. But let's get into the other Bears news we got talking about. So basically, other Bears news, other Bears moves for you guys. We'll talk about some of the other players that signed with the Bears. The Bears signed former Miami Dolphins tight end Durham Smith to a 1-year deal. And for you guys being like, why did they sign a tight end? The reason why is Gerald Everett did get let go. If you guys were with us a few weeks ago, Gerald Everett and DeMarcus Walker got cut the same day. So they need to fill some line in with pass blocking tight end. Durham Smith is going to fill in great. Smith is an excellent run blocker, and also he could help in the pass protection as well. So I'd like that. I know you're going to say someday, and let me just go over one more stat with Smith. So basically, he overlapped with Ben Johnson in 2018 during his rookie season, where Ben Johnson's coaching career started as well that year. Ben Johnson was the wide receivers coach in Miami in 2018 when Drew Smith came in and got drafted by the Miami Dolphins. So that's why they got a little
I love this pickup. Yeah, I'm really happy about this pickup. I think the run blocking is obviously exceptional because you look at this Miami Dolphins team and you look at the players that he needs to block for, right? You got an amazing running back, and I know why the running back's slipping my mind. And you got players like Waddle and Hill and Jonnu Smith. Like, these are all players that are pass and run, yards after catch. So a lot of that has to do with the blocking. And this guy was on the field for a high percentage of snaps because he was just an excellent blocker. So that's huge. I mean, what is it that Ben Johnson said in one of his interviews last week, right? No block, no rock.
Yep.
No block, no rock.
Great interview by that was on was that on PM? No, that was the other.
I believe that was PFF, Pro Football Focus. I believe it was, but I don't remember. But definitely go and watch that, you guys, because that was one of the longer, extensive interviews that he had. But yeah, he simply said there are no block, no rock, and there's one player I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of DJ Moore. DJ Moore has a little bit of an issue when it comes to blocking excessively downfield. You know, any play that lasts longer than 15 seconds, looks like DJ Moore gets a little exhausted. But definitely. Blocking is going to be big, and tight end is going to help us out a lot here. I'm really excited about that hire.
I'm very excited about that hire as well. Like you said, I know you before this podcast, you were kind of talking about Bears might pick up maybe one more tight end to help, supplement Cole Kmet and Smith as well. I do see that happening potentially if the money's right. I think they're going to wait a little bit just after free agency and stuff like that. Yeah. But Dan, we got a few other moves. Talk about a few more of them if you can.
All right. So the next one here. A couple players that were currently on the Bears roster and or not on the Bears roster, but usually a bunch of these are players that we'll be bringing back here. So the Bears are retaining linebacker / special teamer Amen Ogbongbemiga. I think I said that right.
I gave you this one because
yes, if you don't know who that is, you'll recognize the last name because he devastated offenses, especially on special teams. Number 45. We offered him a 2-year, $5 million deal, which I was really happy about it because I felt his energy last year was really, really good. And whenever you saw a player tackling the first player available on special teams, you always saw him going up there. Amen. So I'm really excited about this hire. I think that's just, I think that's a little bit of Ryan Poles sitting there going like, hey, if you don't understand who this player is, we love him. Let's bring him back. And that goes a little bit with this next player here. The Bears also decided to sign defensive back Josh Blackwell, which Tyler remembers. He was there in person for his return touchdown that he had on special teams at the last week. So I was really excited to see him back. He will be back on a 2-year contract extension.
I'm a huge fan of Josh Blackwell. He had that, I believe he was the one that had that punt return in the Green Bay game. So obviously faked everybody out. I'm really excited about that pickup, and then underrated. Other guys, 2 underrated pickups, just little deals that we can keep these guys on because, they fit that Bears uniform, and Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles realized that they could be another piece for the future in the next few years for the Bears organization. We did have a few more, news coming out. The Bears tendered Daniel Hardy. He was a special team standout, if you guys don't remember him, especially in the preseason as well. And then he also showed great value in the pass rush. And then also the Bears did announce that they're not going to be tendering free agent linebacker Jack Sanborn, and they'll let him walk and potentially be a free agent as well.
There was word saying that Jack Sanborn could return on a team-friendly deal, depending on how much we love him.
Sure.
But I was surprised by seeing what Twitter felt about Jack Sanborn because I feel like during the season, no one talked about him. All of a sudden, his release is showing all these fans being like, oh my gosh, Bears, there's a bad decision that you're making. I'm fine with it. I think he's worth a lot of money. He's worth a lot of money.
I do too.
Right now.
I think he wants a little bit more money than what the Bears are potentially gonna, offer him. If he doesn't sign with a different team, I do expect him to get a free agent deal, or I'm sorry, team friendly deal with the Bears. But Jack Sanborn had those games where he, had like 12 tackles and stuff like that. And then the next game he'll have 3. It's just he's an on and off type of player. I do like Jack Sanborn a lot, but if he is expecting a lot more money, I could see why the Bears could potentially move on from him.
Very true.
And then Dan, this is some other news. Yeah, talk about this.
This is interesting. This will make the jersey that I bought back in 2018 useful again. And for any of you that know,
me too.
I'm sure there was millions of people that went and bought themselves a Chicago Bears Khalil Mack jersey, especially after that Week 1 Packers game. I was definitely one of those people, and there's word around town that Edge Khalil Mack is open to making a return to Chicago. Now, how possible is it? It's very possible, actually. But with his age, he's nearing 32 years old. He's a little bit on the older side. I'm thinking right now at this exact moment, there's a 1 or 2 year deal in place, but definitely not the same kind of money that we're giving a top-end defensive prospect like Josh Sweat. So we'll see exactly how that plays out. I would love to welcome back to Chicago, but that is only on the team-friendly deal.
Yeah.
He's loved here. He's definitely had his best moments of his career here in Chicago. And I think he understands that his best opportunity to win might be back over here in Chicago. So it would be cool to see that happen. But
yeah,
I mean, at this moment, the Bears have $50.5 million left in cap space, which is still a good amount. There's going to be a few more signings here, but this is what I want to say. After these last few signings that we've seen, last few trades as well, what kind of new moves do you see the Bears doing? At least give me the next 2 or 3 moves that you think will happen in the next week or so.
Okay. So realistically, I really do think the Bears are going to go all out for Drew Dalman. I think they're going to sign him to a contract that he wants. And I think they're going to the Bears are going to get Drew Dalman. That is what I think. Now, the other thing that I'm talking about, what the Bears could potentially do, I talked about weeks ago, I believe, actually probably a few months ago on the podcast. I talked about one player, the Bears, and this was actually before the Super Bowl, man. I said this.
Yeah.
If you don't remember this was 3 weeks before the Super Bowl, before some people didn't even know this guy's name. I knew this guy. I'm looking at, who could be a free agent, and he popped off in the Super Bowl. In my opinion, he could have won the MVP for the Super Bowl, just how good he did. And that would be Josh Sweat. I think the Bears could potentially snag a great deal with Josh Sweat. And the deal that I've been reading around is that he's looking for around a 3-year deal. I think the Bears could offer him a 4-year deal for about $76 million. And what that means is that the Bears, if they get Drew Dalman for a 4-year, $60 million deal, it's roughly around 56. I think they'll overpay to get him. 4 years, $60 million. And if they can get another edge rusher, if let's say Khalil Mack, they say, no, let's not get an older guy. Let's get somebody who's a little bit younger and sign a little longer deal, like Josh Sweat to a 4-year, $76 million contract. The Bears would be left with about $14 million with the cap. That's my math I've been doing with that. I like these 2 signings a lot. But now, after I just kind of wrote this down, now let's talk about this. Josh Sweat would be a lot of money. I just looked up Khalil Mack's rankings with 2024. He was ranked 5th in overall grade. Pass rush, he's ranked 16th at a 79.9, and his run defense was ranked 2nd in the league. At 32 years old, man.
That's crazy. That's really good.
If we can get a team-friendly deal with Khalil Mack, I'm completely all for it. But now let's talk about the other guy who just, requested a trade and request a trade, Trey Hendrickson. I know the Bengals are going to be asking for a lot, but he is a franchise cornerstone player that the Bears can potentially target. That's all I'm saying. So Drew Dalman's got to be priority. I think the Bears got to get an edge rusher as well, depending on a long-term deal with a younger guy, maybe Khalil Mack. And that's what I think. What do you think, man? What are some other moves the Bears can potentially make? I know next week, I believe it's next Tuesday. That is when the free agency opens next week, but that's the day that they could start to bargain. I forget what
the
they
tampering,
non-tampering or whatever. Yeah. What do you think, man?
So I think my list is pretty similar to yours. There's one player that 100% struck out to me. There was 2 players that I added when I had another 10 minutes to kind of look into it, just because I was thinking to myself, what positions could easily be filled for a low price. So I agree. I think Drew Dalman, I think he's going to come along on a 3 or 4 year deal. I have him here as a 3-year, $45 million deal. I think it's a very flexible deal. He's going to hit that, and then once he's done with it, he's going to hit his 30s. So that's going to be a good evaluation period. My next one is linebacker Nick Bolton from the Chiefs. The way I look at it is that Jack Sanborn is out and he's leaving. Even though he is a more expensive player than Jack Sanborn, the way I look at it is that Dennis Allen loves to do what he can on third down. He's a big player when it comes to blitzing on third down, fake blitzing. And who is the most important blitzer that we've seen in the playoffs and in important games this entire season? I think you take a look at Nick Bolton, a player who can play linebacker, safety, and he'll go on the edge if you really ask him to. He's a little bit smaller, a little bit undersized from Jack Sanborn, but I think a 2-year, $22 million deal won't hurt so much. I think he's definitely someone that if definitely Dennis Allen is going to be asking for one player, I think we're looking at the player that Tyler chose, or a player like this on a team-friendly deal. It's pretty cheap, but someone who definitely has the experience, right? Has the player profile to match. And then my last one here was just a random one. The Bears are going to have to sign a tight end. We're going to have to sign another tight end here. And the reason why I say tight end before we ever talk about a wide receiver 3 is because Mike Gesicki's on the board. Mike Gesicki is a very, very talented pass catcher.
He is.
And when I was reading up on him, he is one of the only tight ends that genuinely is an asset on one-on-one coverage. And that's what the Bears are, right? Bears are a very, very good team when it comes to one-on-one coverage. And he's someone that played really well with T. Higgins injuries, or with Jamar Chase injuries. Like, he has been someone that has always been there for Joe Burrow. So I think he would be a very good safety blanket for the Bears, knowing Cole Kmet is going to be there available as well. But give them a nice tight end too. You know, he's less of a blocking tight end, definitely more of a pass catching tight end. But if that means he's going to catch 4 or 5 touchdowns this year, I believe a 2-year, $13 million deal might be worth it.
Yeah,
but we'll see about that.
Yeah, I just looked up. He's 29 too, so I think it's a good age too to help complement Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet can learn a little bit more, from Mike Gesicki. I know he's doing great too, but yeah, I like those moves, man. Nick Bolton's a name that's been kind of sparking to me. I really like that. Mike Gesicki as well could be a great pickup. I do like those
underrated players. I really doubt the last 2 happen, but when it comes to those team-friendly deals, those are the deals that I'm looking for. Any 2-year deals under $15 million, I'd be very, very excited for any deals like that.
Yeah. We got one more news for you out of the Bears organization today, and this is a little bit, you can say, smaller news. I think this is fun news because I love going to this, especially. The Bears did announce today that they're going to be hosting their annual draft party again at Soldier Field on Thursday, April 24th, for everybody to witness the 10th pick for the Bears this season, and also, obviously, all those other picks in the first round as well. The tickets will go on sale next Wednesday. I've been going for the last 4 years, so have you as well. I know you're going to be out of town this year.
Fortunately, I will not be there this season.
But you're going to have a fun time out of town. You can't.
Yeah. It's not often you travel overseas, so I'm pretty excited for that moment. And I do miss it. I'm missing it by literally 3 days, but I'm pretty excited about it. Yeah. I'm pretty excited. I'll be watching. I texted in the group chat. I'll be watching Bears hat. I'll be in a pub somewhere in Edinburgh, and then
better be rocking a Bears hat.
You already know. I can't go without it.
All right, that's pretty much all the news we got for you guys out of the Bears organization. Obviously, Bears trading for trading for Joe Thuney, joined for Jonah Jackson. We got those other extensions and releases as well. And then the Bears draft party coming up. So exciting time, obviously, to be a Bears fan. We'll keep you guys up to date. We'll be back next week with the Bears news with you guys. If there's any other trades, rumored free agent signing. I just saw, obviously, before we end this Bears section and the football section, that the Commanders are in really strong suit to try to trade for Trey Hendrickson for the Bengals.
And also for Myles Garrett. Right? Myles Garrett is still up there as well. Him and Trey Hendrickson are both going to be neck and neck.
Let me tell you something before we end football. I just read some that is a 70% chance that Myles Garrett is going to stay with the Cleveland Browns after they restructured Deshaun Watson's deal and they got $36 million back on the cap.
Yeah. I did hear about that as well, and I would feel really bad.
I feel bad. He doesn't want to stay, man.
He doesn't want. There's nothing going on there. They're going to draft a rookie QB. It's going to take another 6 years before they ever make a playoff game. So I feel bad for him. I think if I'm him right now, I'm doing everything I can to get to Philadelphia. That's what it sounds like.
I agree. All right, let's end off the Bears discussion with you guys. Let's go right into the UC chat today. So obviously with our UC chat, we dive into all the Bulls games in the last week. We dive into all the Blackhawks games in the last week as well, and we're going to get you guys kicked off with some of the Bulls games, obviously. So obviously the Bulls had about 3 games since the last time we talked to you guys. First game being the Bulls against the Raptors at the United Center, and the Raptors are currently ranked 13th place in the Eastern Conference. They're kind of in a rebuilding phase right now. They're only got Scotty Barnes and a few other, but they did just sign Brandon Ingram as well. So that's a big key piece. So Dan, kick us off with the Bulls against the Raptors for me, if you can.
Totally. So the week before, we told you about how the Bulls-Sixers game was probably one of the best games of the season. The Bulls came back. The Bulls had probably what I think is the best game of the season so far, just because it was the most exciting to watch. It was very entertaining, and I was talking to Todd about it the entire time. Todd, were you working that game or not?
The
The
Raptors game.
overtime game.
No, I was not.
Kobe. Yeah. So this game was
I was actually at home
absolutely.
that game. I was at home watching that on the couch.
Yeah, I was
And,
texting
I
you
thought it was
during it because I was
awesome.
like, I thought you were there, and I was like, this is an
No, I
insane
wish. That
crowd
would've
to
been
be part of.
awesome.
And we'll get into exactly why this game was so important. But the Bulls ended up winning this game 125 to 115 in overtime. This game was obviously played at United Center, and the Bulls' leading scorers was Josh Giddey with 19 points, 8 rebounds, 12 assists. A very
efficient, very efficient Josh Giddey.
Very efficient. Kobe White, 24 points, 4 steals, which 4 steals matches his career high.
Ooh.
And then Zach Collins, 15 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists. So 2 almost double-doubles or triple-doubles in this game. The Bulls, again, came back because the Raptors had a 16-point lead in the third quarter. So this game, even in my eyes, I stopped watching after the third quarter because I was like, Toronto Raptors, it's okay if we lose this game because this is a game that's going to put us lower in the standings. But the Bulls said, hell nah. Hell no. Hell no.
Hell no.
The Bulls won despite only shooting 26% from 3. 13 of 49. The Raptors led for the first 3 quarters until getting tied the fourth quarter to Kobe White's game-tying 4-point play to go into overtime.
It was a bonehead move by the Raptors defender, man.
By Emmanuel Quickly. Horrible shot. Yeah, horrible decision-making. And I wanted to look up more stats on this. This is the 13th time only in history that a game going into overtime was tied by a 4-point play. The 13th game in NBA history. So that just shows exactly how rare it is. It maybe happens once every 2 seasons. And that was just a really exciting thing because Kobe White, man, that's putting it on his highlight reel. 4-point play to tie the game. And going into overtime, especially with the last few minutes left in the fourth quarter, the Bulls went on a 21-6 run to finish the game. Whereas you could tell that the Raptors coach, when they were up 10 in the fourth quarter, he was starting to look worried. And that's when I was like, okay, it's time to start betting on the Bulls because the Bulls are probably going to win this game, which is exactly how the way it finished. The Bulls had 8 of 11 players finish in double figures, which is really, really awesome.
This was an awesome game, man. Obviously, I only caught the ending. I believe I was working that night. I got home and, I took a shower and all of a sudden I saw they were down. I'm like, okay, they're going to lose this game. And then finally I was like, oh my God, this is a close game. I better turn on. So I turned the game on and I saw that Kobe White 4-point play. My mouth was dropped. It was absolutely awesome. That was absolutely awesome, by Kobe White and recognition that the defender's there. Why don't I just shoot the ball up? He got that 4-point play. So really excited for Kobe White there. He really needed that. Obviously, he missed a few game-winning shots in his past, but I really did think this was an awesome game for the Bulls, getting that overtime win as well.
Oh yeah,
but yeah,
was really cool.
Very good game for the Bulls. Let's get into the next game, which is the Bulls against the Pacers. So that was Sunday, March 2nd. So obviously a few days ago. The Pacers are 5th in the Eastern Conference. So obviously they're a decent team right now. You're looking good with Tyrese Haliburton and a few other key pieces on that team. The Bulls, unfortunately, did lose this game 112 to 127. The Bulls' leading scorers this game were Josh Giddey. He had 18 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists. Once again, very efficient by Josh Giddey since Zach LaVine had got traded by the Bulls. Kobe White, 26 points and 7 rebounds. And then Modest Buzelis, 18 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and 1 steal. So I think this was a great game by, some of these key players, Modest Buzelis, Kobe White, and Josh Giddey. But unfortunately, they did lose this game. Let's talk about why this lost this game. So the Pacers, we're kind of rolling into a little bit of a hot streak with the last few games. They won last 7 out of 10 meetings against the Bulls. Kobe White scored 9 points in 54 seconds in the second quarter. I remember you texted me about that. Super cool stat by Kobe White. At halftime, the Bulls did lead by 1, 67 to 66. But basically, the Bulls did unfortunately lose this game while leading in certain categories as well. Let's talk about those categories. The Bulls won points in the paint, 60 to 48. So they were 12 points better in points in the paint. They won in second chance points, 15 to 6. They had more rebounds than the Pacers, 42 to 36. And then the Bulls only put up 20 points in the fourth quarter. So that was kind of that really did hit the Bulls kind of hard, putting up only 20 points in the fourth, while Indiana put up 32 in the fourth quarter. The Bulls shot 30% from three-pointer this game. They had 12 total team turnovers. And then Dalen Terry also did have his second career NBA start. And let's talk about that real quick because he had 18 minutes, 2 points and 1 rebound. Bad stat line for a starting player. That's very bad.
Pretty bad, yeah.
Just going into this game, I knew that the Bulls, this would be a tough one for them because the Pacers always perform very well. Obviously, when I think about Bulls against Pacers, the one thing I think about is when the DeMar DeRozan walked off, the Pacers with that game-winning shot back-to-back nights. But this was a tough game for the Bulls. They did lead in a lot of categories. There were some sparks like Josh Giddey, Modest Buzelis, and Kobe, but the whole overall team just couldn't put it together with this one. So that's pretty much the Bulls against the Pacers. Dan, do you want to take the Bulls against the Cavs? Obviously, this was not last night. This was 2 nights ago. I keep thinking this was last night, but this was a interesting game to say the least.
Yeah, so the Bulls had a chance
in a good way for the Bulls, in my opinion.
Yeah, Bulls had a chance. So this is obviously the Cavs are the first in the Eastern Conference. Bulls did end up losing this game 117-139, but the Bulls had a chance here. Kobe White, 25 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists. Zach Collins been going off for the Bulls lately, 20 points, 12 rebounds. And then Talen Horton-Tucker off the bench, 22 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists. The Bulls have now lost 11 straight meetings versus the Cavs. We are 1-11 in our last 11 games. And that one game we won was, of course, 10 games ago. So that's unfortunate, especially against the Cavs. They have our number. And the biggest lead was 15 points through the second quarter. The Bulls were leading in the second quarter. That's why I said that the Bulls had a chance. We're leading at halftime here. And we were leading the first seed at halftime, 58-57.
This was crazy. I couldn't believe it. And the Cavs just started this game off bad because I was looking at the stat line. I believe Donovan Mitchell only had 4 or 6 points, and Darius Garland had 2 points. Jared Allen had like 4 points. It was just an overall sloppy mess for the Cavs in the first half. I think they only shot what 3-pointer. I think they were shooting 12% in the first half. It was bad. So
they did end up coming back. So it was only a 1-point game at halftime, even though like eyes of Bulls fans was pretty excited. Was thinking about, hey, like time to bet on the Bulls. The Bulls in this game actually did lead points in the paint, second chance points, and fast break points. So we definitely played with a lot more speed and precision, which was really fun. But yet again, the Bulls are shooting under 30% from 3. This game we shot 25%, and then we also only shot 70% from the free throw, which is really weird being, I feel like for the Bulls, historically, we've always been really good at free throws. This team this year is probably one of the worst free throw shooting teams I've ever seen. I remember a few games ago, Josh Giddey and Kobe White missed 4 free throws in the fourth quarter, which is 4 free points. And that's just a disgusting stat line. Jared Allen this game had 25 points and 17 rebounds after a very, very slow first quarter. And there was one other thing that we learned after this game, which is very it's disappointing being someone from Chicago here because we've dealt with this occasionally in the past. And Bulls guard Ayo Dosunmu found out before the Cavs game, that he would need reconstructive shoulder surgery and that his season would end up being over. This was the first surgery in his entire basketball career, high school, college, and or NBA. So that would be the first surgery he had. And just now that this Ayo, they found this out after doing a test on Ayo, an MRI, knowing that his shoulder was hurting and he had 4 different dislocations this season. And they ended up finding that he had a fracture in his shoulder, and that's been there for the last 2 seasons. So over 160 regular season games, he's had a fracture in his shoulder. So that explains the reason as to why last year he had a really big down year, shooting wise and driving wise. And this is just a huge L for the Bulls medical staff. It's ridiculous because you look at a team like this where it's like a guard like Ayo, he's dying to play. He's dying to play his NBA minutes. He got his contract next year, his last year of his contract that he got for his extension. He wants to prove it himself. And unfortunately, in a team deal where it's like this right now, where you got guys like Dalen Terry starting, Ayo Dosunmu deserves to be out there to prove his worth, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he can't be out there because of the Bulls medical staff. They failed him. And honestly, this goes all the way to AK as well. AK did fail Ayo Dosunmu. Not letting him play healthy. So that's just a really ridiculous move by the Bulls here. And I feel bad for Ayo because he is a Chicago classic. He loves playing basketball, and I love watching him play. So that's unfortunate.
Yeah. Big loss for the Bulls. Ayo tried his best. He wanted to, stick through it and keep going with whatever, obviously he, was dealing with. And then they found out, obviously, what he was dealing with was a bigger deal than what he thought it was. It's just, the Bulls aren't going to have a winning season this season. It's just good that they shut him down now. Let him get his surgery if he's going to get surgery, and then let's just go on with the next season. Ayo's a great piece, and Ayo deserves to, rest a little bit. He does a lot for the Bulls, in my opinion. But, so So unfortunate for the Bulls, very unfortunate. But let's talk about what the Bulls are doing at right now. So basically, the Bulls are sitting at 24-38, 10th in the Eastern Conference.
Same as before.
For the 6th or 7th week in a row, we're 10th in the
Eastern UC chat is very, very mediocre at best, but the games have been interesting at least.
That's all right. But yeah, so obviously Philly shut down Embiid for, I believe he's out for the whole rest of the season, if I recall correctly.
Yes, Embiid is out. Yep.
And then Paul George might get shut down for the whole rest of the season too, from the rumors I've been seeing. So I don't expect Philly to jump us. I do expect Brooklyn to jump us in the 10th spot if they end up getting a few more wins. But let's talk about the next 3 games for the Bulls, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
So the Bulls tonight, they play. And we'll see what happens with this one, because this is a team that I think they look better on paper than what the record states. The Bulls are going to be playing the Orlando Magic tonight in Orlando. I believe it's a 6:30 start, if I recall correctly, 6 or 6:30. I can double check right now. Dan, take over the next 2 games, man.
Yes, and then on Saturday, the 8th, the Bulls are hosting, the Miami Heat are hosting the Bulls over in Miami. And then next Monday, we go and play the Pacers back at the United Center on the 10th.
Okay.
So those are the next 3 games. They're all conference games. So these are games that are definitely going to, kind of punish us a little bit if we do end up losing them. So I'm kind of hoping that we do get some losses here or an overtime win. I love a good overtime win.
Free basketball. We love that, right, man?
Free basketball.
We love that. It is 6 p.m. tonight. Just double check. So 6 o'clock, Bulls Magic. Go tune in. It should be an interesting game because I could see the Bulls come out with a win tonight. Let's get into Blackhawks talk, shall we? We got a few games to talk about. Actually, we got 4 games within the last week. Danny's going to kick us off with obviously what's going on with the first game, which was Hawks versus Golden Knights. But before we do that, we did have big news out of the Hawks organization about last week. The Hawks decided to trade defenseman Seth Jones to the Florida Panthers. I couldn't think of the team right now. Oh my God. The Florida Panthers. And the reason why they traded is because Seth Jones was unhappy with the team. He wanted to get off the team. He said they haven't done anything in a long time. And the Blackhawks and I can't think of the guy's name. Oh my God. The owner of the Hawks, or the manager. Can't think of his name right now, but it'll come to my head. But decided to trade Seth Jones off the team. They got in return, they got goalie Spencer Knight from the Florida Panthers and a 2026 first-round pick, and we gave them Seth Jones and a 4th-round pick. Dude, we got
it's a good steal.
Top 10 goalie and a first-round pick for a guy who was complaining that didn't want to be on our team. I'll take it, man.
Deal
with me. Seth Jones was really weighing down this team on, how, basically he didn't want to compete. And when he came back, it seems like the defense was a little bit more poor. Seth Jones, he got traded, and I think he's happy with his trade about that. And then 4 days, obviously this was 4 days after the defenseman addressed the media saying that he wanted to be traded. Seth Jones was with the Hawks for 4 seasons, playing 259 games. He had 32 goals and 114 assists. So adios, Seth Jones. Hello, Spencer Knight. And we'll talk about Spencer Knight in a few games, but Dan's going to kick us off with the first game. Hawks with the Las Vegas Golden Knights in Vegas. And this was a very interesting game for the Hawks. Dan, talk about this, man.
So obviously the Golden Knights aren't so prominent as they were before, but this is still a very, very interesting game. And it was a high-scoring game. The Hawks did end up losing 5-7, so 12 total points in this game. And the first period was filled with a lot of scoring, but mainly for the Golden Knights. The Golden Knights scored 5 times in the first period. So I was 5 goals.
Buzz. My phone was buzz. Yeah. I'm like, oh, Golden Knights
insanity.
Scored. Oh,
insanity.
A lot of goals, man, for the Golden Knights.
And the Hawks did end up scoring 2. Nick Foligno scored his 12th goal of the season. That was assisted by Alex Vlasic and Teuvo Teravainen, which was his 30th and Vlasic's 20th. And then the Hawks were down 5-1 going into the first intermission break, which kind of can give you a little bit of a different headspace there. But I am proud for the Hawks for the way they fought this game. In the second period, the Hawks did score twice. 1 minute into the period, Colton Dach scored his 2nd goal of the season, assisted by Frank Nazar, which had his 9th assist, and Tyler Bertuzzi his 14th assist. Then just 4 minutes later, Ethan Del Mastro scored his 1st goal of the season. That was assisted by Ryan Donato, his 21st, and Connor Murphy, his 13th. The Golden Knights did score again in the second period as well. So it's going 6-3 into the second period intermission. Not a lot of hope there, but still a lot of scoring. So this is a good game for any stat patters out there in Chicago trying to get their stats a little bit up for the later part of the season. And then in the third period, the Hawks did fight back a little bit. Mikheyev scored his 11th goal of the season, assisted by Frank Nazar, his 10th, and Connor Murphy got his 14th assist. Also, Philip Kurashev scored to bring the Hawks to within just one. That was his 6th goal of the season. That was assisted by Craig Smith's 6th and Connor Murphy's 15th assist. Unfortunately for the Hawks, Vegas did score one more time to put them up 2 goals. But with the final score of Hawks losing 5-7, I am pretty excited about the way that this team played, because defensively was tough. Defensively was bad. But offensively, they're right there. They're really punishing this team. The Hawks were shot 33-22, and the Hawks did only win 41% of faceoffs, which is a couple percent bumped up from the recent games. Usually we're around 35-36%. And the Golden Knights did score twice on their power play. They went 2 out of 3. So this was a pretty high-scoring game, and that's, I think, all we can be hopeful for, is that this team is getting it glued down. The young guys are definitely trying to score at will. Defense can always use some more work, but I'd be much more comfortable, working on defense than working on offense. If offense is something that this team can kind of manage, then I'm very excited with the way that they're playing.
Exactly. And, they did crawl back. They're down 5-1 in this game. They got within 1 goal. Obviously, they did score in the 3rd period, but this was, in my opinion, even though it was a loss, I think it was a good game for the Blackhawks, besides being outshot. And, obviously the Golden Knights did take advantage of those power play opportunities. But let's get into the next game, man. Let's get into the Blackhawks versus the Ducks. And this was on March 1st. So with the Blackhawks and the Ducks, no goals were scored in the first period with this game. It was a donut 0-0 in the first period. Here, you got your glasses for the 0-0? Hey, we should do that.
Right? Donut. Yeah.
So in the second period, there was a lot of scoring in the second period with this game. And then this game was obviously in Anaheim in California. This was a late night game. This was a 9 p.m. game. So I know some coworkers that are working at CHSN, and 9 o'clock games, that means you get out of there about 12:30, but it's a little bit later game. But let's talk about it. So the second period, the Hawks did score the first goal of the game for either team. Wyatt Kaiser scored his 2nd goal of the season, and that was assisted by Teuvo Teravainen, his 31st, and Mikheyev, his 10th goal of the season. And about a minute later, the Anaheim Ducks did end up capitalizing on a goal. Leo Carlsson scored his 12th goal of the season. But 2 minutes later after that, the Hawks bounced back and scored again. So Pat Maroon scored on a power play opportunity, his 4th goal of the season. That was assisted by Lucas Reichel, his 12th, and Alec Martinez, his 6th. And then 3 minutes later, the Hawks scored one more time as well. Teuvo Teravainen scored his 14th and assisted by Ryan Donato, his 22nd. And then TJ Brody assisted as well, his 8th. And then a minute later, this seems like a trend with the Anaheim Ducks. They scored a minute later after the Hawks. They ended up scoring again. The score going into the second period intermission was 3-2 Hawks up by 1 goal. Let's talk about the third period, shall we? So the third period, 5 minutes into the third period, Lucas Reichel scored his 6th goal of the season. This was assisted by Craig Smith, his 7th, and Alec Martinez, his 7th assist of the season as well. And then 3 minutes later after that, the Hawks got another power play opportunity, and they ended up capitalizing on that as well. Ryan Donato scored his 20th, assisted by Tyler Bertuzzi, his 15th, and Alec Vlasic, his 21st assist of the season as well. And then 3 minutes later, the Hawks scored one more time for the whole entire game. Ryan Donato scored his 21st goal of the season. He's been a really big spark with this Blackhawks organization. I expect him to sign a extension with the Blackhawks this offseason. I think he's going to be another cornerstone piece to help Bedard. But going into that was assisted by Teuvo Teravainen, his 32nd assist of the season. He's been a really good piece to this team as well. The Ducks did try to crawl back, but they only scored one more goal for the game. It was Leo Carlsson. Again, he scored his 2nd goal of the game, his 13th of the season. The final score, Hawks win this game 6-3. So great game for the Hawks.
Hawks are pushing points here.
Yeah.
That's
incredible. 6-3. We love the great, like you said, Dan, we love this great offense by the Hawks. We really do. Let's talk about a little bit of what kind of went on with some of these stats. The Hawks were outshot 24-31, so only a 7-shot differential. The Anaheim Ducks had 27 hits on the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks only won 40% of the faceoffs. And then with 4 power play opportunities the Hawks had, they scored 2 goals with those power play opportunities. So good job for the Hawks. Winning 6-3 against the Ducks, who are an even team, 26-7 right now. So that was a good game for the Hawks, and great job for them to capitalize on the offensive side of the puck. Like you said, Dan, defense obviously they're working on that with Seth Jones leaving. I know he wasn't really helping too much, but Arvid Soderblom had 28 saves as well for the Blackhawks. So great job for that.
Good
now,
games.
the next game we're going to talk about, this was a really fun game for the Hawks. And the reason why this was a fun game for the Hawks, Dan, you'll talk about why this was a fun game for the Hawks.
So if you remember the trade that happened a few days ago, this was the first output of the new goalie Spencer Knight. And I'm sure you've heard about Spencer Knight all over the media that one night because he was the knight in shining armor, per se. The Hawks hosted the LA Kings. No pun intended at all. So the Hawks hosted the LA Kings at the United Center. Kings are the third in the Pacific Division, so it's definitely not an easy opponent. But the Hawks won this game 5-1. Oh my gosh. Obviously, it was new goalie Spencer Knight's first start for the Hawks. Alec Martinez kicked things off 10 minutes into the first period with his first goal. It was his 5th of the season, assisted by Tyler Bertuzzi, which was his 16th assist. A minute later, the Kings would score to tie the game 1 apiece. But trust me, this is the only tie that happened this entire game. 1-1 going into the first period intermission. The rest of the game would be all Hawks and all newly acquired goalie Spencer Knight. Mikheyev scored his 12th goal of the season 1 minute into the second period, assisted by Teuvo Teravainen, his 33rd assist, and Ryan Donato, his 23rd. Quickly racking up those assists, boys. 12 minutes later, Ethan Del Mastro scored his 2nd goal of the season, assisted by Pat Maroon. That was his 11th assist, and Lucas Reichel, his 13th. Hawks dropped 3-1 going into the second intermission. And trust me, there's a good amount of scoring left to be had, good amount of blocking left to be had by the goalie. The third period would be all Hawks as well. Andreas Athanasiou.
See, this is why I gave you this.
You know
section,
it. You know it, don't you? You know it.
No, I don't. I actually don't know this one. No, I don't. I wish I did. I don't know.
And of course, we haven't heard this name before because it was his first goal of the season 1 minute into the third period, and that was assisted by Colton Dach, his 4th assist. And at the end of the game, the Hawks would score an empty netter. Ryan Donato scored his 22nd goal of the season, assisted by Mikheyev, his 11th, and Teravainen, his 34th assist. And the final score here would be 5-1. So here's the important stat that I want everyone to remember. Keep remembering. Put this in your head. The Hawks were outshot 42-19.
That's crazy.
But still finished the game 5-1.
Only allowing 1 goal.
Offense,
why did that happen,
offense.
Man? Yeah.
Offense. Hawks goalie Spencer Knight had 42 saves in his first game as a Blackhawk. And we're going to go through a little bit later in this fun facts to give you a lot more fun facts about why this game was just absolutely so important to us. And Monday evening marked the first time a Blackhawks goaltender had over 40 saves in a game while allowing 1 goal or less in 1,118 days, guys.
This, let me just say,
crazy.
Spencer Knight, he deserves a big clap.
Thank you, Spencer.
Did awesome. Like you said, newly acquired Blackhawks, Spencer Knight did awesome this game. The Kings are a decent team as well. And, they're in that wild card hunt, I believe. And that's what I'm talking about is Spencer Knight got a standing ovation. The crowd stood around. He got the #1 star of the game, standing ovation in front of the United Center crowd. He had a smile on his face the whole time. Painter was interviewing him. I know he just was very happy to be a Blackhawk. He was talking about how the anthem was awesome. I'm really excited about Spencer Knight, newly acquired Blackhawk. Really
and shout out to Hawks GM because that's a Kyle phenomenal
Davidson.
trade.
I remember now. I got the name.
Very big pickup for the Hawks right now. Not even sitting there being like, hey, we need to acquire a goalie, but definitely getting whatever the best available profit was for Seth Jones.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, this is nothing better than this. All people are talking about is how the next 10 years are solidified. We got our goalie and we got our lead attack. Like this team has been officially solidified, officially being built from the ground up by this trade. So I'm really excited about it. And let's not forget, we got that 1st round pick for next season as well.
Exactly, man. Great game for the Hawks and great start for the Blackhawks career for Spencer Knight. Let's go into the last game we got in the
what's the last one
last week, which is Blackhawks against the Senators. And this was an interesting game as well. So we're going to talk about that. So in the first period, there was a lot of scoring in the first period of this game. So the Hawks, unfortunately, did lose this game 4-3, but let's kind of talk about that. So 2 minutes into the first period, Brady Tkachuk scored his 24th goal of the season. So bringing the Senators up 1-0 to start the game. And about 10 minutes later, Ryan Donato scored again for the Hawks. It's his 23rd goal of the season. This was assisted by Landon Slaggert, his first assist of the season for the Blackhawks. And then a minute later, the Hawks ended up getting a power play, and Teuvo Teravainen took over and got his 15th goal of the season, assisted by Tyler Bertuzzi, his 17th, and Alex Vlasic, his 22nd assist of the season as well. But then kind of going into it, 2 minutes later, the Senators ended up scoring again, and that would tie the game at 2 goals apiece going into the first period intermission, 2-2 going into the first period. Now in the second period, there wasn't too much scoring until the Senators, about 10 minutes into the period, ended up scoring a goal. Josh Norris scored his 20th goal of the season, putting the Senators up 3-2. That was the only goal in the second period, so Senators up 3-2. And now in the third period, the Hawks did end up scoring 1 minute into the third period. It was Craig Smith, his 9th goal of the season. That would tie that game at 3 goals apiece, and that was assisted by Pat Maroon, his 12th. And now there would be no more scoring in the third period or in this entire game, so that would put this game to overtime. And unfortunately for the Hawks, they lost in overtime, about a minute into overtime, actually 46 seconds into overtime. Tim Stutzel scored his 20th goal of the season. That would be it. Senators win this game 4-3, but at least they did get that goal in the third period and force this game to overtime, which was good for the Hawks. And let's talk about a little bit of stats with this game on why the Hawks potentially lost this game, or let's talk about kind of what kind of went down. So the Hawks were outshot 26-20, so a 6-goal shot differential. Talking about faceoffs, the Hawks won 42% of the faceoffs. Senators won 57%. And now power play opportunities, the Hawks were 1 for 1 on power play opportunities, getting a goal on the only opportunity they saw.
Good offense.
Yeah.
Keep pushing offense, baby.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all the stats I got for you guys with the Hawks and
Sucks
Senators.
to lose that game. It would have been nice to win three straight, but that energy is there and you feel it shifting. So I'm really excited about the way this is going. And again, it was a close game. Did you see the video of how long the players stood on the ice before they actually called the game? Because they obviously losing in overtime.
So I did see this, and let's talk about this real quick.
These players are hungry. Yeah, these guys are hungry.
A little bit of controversy with this, because if we talk about this, there's about a week before, I was working one of the games over at CHSN where somebody pushed Connor Bedard into the goaltender. Connor Bedard got a goal, and then all of a sudden you saw the ref flag it off and say, no, there was goaltender interference. The Hawks decided not to challenge that play because they didn't know if it was a goaltender interference, or they got no information about it. This is the same exact thing that happened in this game. Player got pushed into Hawks goalie. Goal went in, but obviously nothing was flagged off. The Hawks did challenge it, and they did not win the challenge, which is really, in my opinion, was really interesting. I just think if I was reading Twitter and people would say if the Hawks would have challenged, if it was the other way around, the Hawks would have won or lost the challenge, or it was just, I just think the Hawks kind of got screwed on this one, in my opinion.
You might be right.
But yeah, this happened about a week ago, kind of like deja vu. That's what I kind of thought with the Hawks. And to end off the Hawks, let's kind of talk about what's going on. Obviously, tomorrow is the trade deadline for the NHL. So is the last time for the Hawks and anybody to potentially do a trade in the league. Players to watch out for, besides, obviously we talk about Seth Jones. He already got traded. Forward Ryan Donato potentially could be on trade watch. Left winger Pat Maroon and defenseman Connor Murphy are some trade names to watch out.
I was gonna offer a little bit of small, interesting facts here. I don't know if you noticed it, but the Blackhawks Twitter apparently has a photo of the entire lineup as their header, and they changed the photo today to a new photo of all their players, except for Ryan Donato was no longer in the photo.
Really?
Not sure if you saw it. Yeah,
I did.
You can
look
it up.
This.
Try to find this photo. Try to find just hashtag Blackhawks header. That did happen this morning. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it, or I don't know if the Hawks just happened to find a better photo they liked. But keep that in mind. That might be a little interesting thing because, social media tells you a lot of things you won't otherwise look for. So that's interesting.
Interesting, man. Very, very interesting. So we'll see.
And you said earlier extension, so I'm hoping here, yes, let's not trade this guy. But
I think he would be a very viable piece to keep for the Hawks organization. He's been great this year, and if we didn't have Ryan Donato, I think we'd be losing these games a lot.
Oh yeah.
A lot more. I know Connor Bedard's on a little bit of a drought right now. I believe he has 0 points in the last 6 games. He's a little bit of a drought. He just needs a little bit of, complimentary help like Ryan Donato. So we'll see what happens with that. So let's talk about the next 3 games for the Hawks coming up. Tomorrow, the Hawks are going to be playing the Utah Hockey Club at the United Center. And then obviously on Saturday, they're going to go back to back. The Hawks are going to be playing the Nashville Predators in Nashville. And then they get a day off. And then on Monday, they're going to be playing the Colorado Avalanche in Colorado. So
Mhm.
they're one more game at the United Center, I believe, is a 3-game homestand. And then they go on a little bit of a away trip to Nashville and then Colorado. So Utah, Nashville, Colorado in the next 3 games for the Hawks. And then we'll see what happens with those. Let's get into some other Chicago sports news before we get into our fun facts to end off our podcast for today. So let's go into our other Chicago sports news for you guys. So let's talk a little bit about baseball, shall we? So the Cubs are currently ranked first in the Cactus League right now. So very good for the Cubs. Cubs are 9-2 right now. And now let's talk about the South side. White Sox are second to last in the Cactus League. White Sox are 3-9. And
I don't know if you saw that one game where the White Sox, it was last week, I believe it was Saturday, where the White Sox won 18-9, 18 runs. That's the only good thing. That's the only good thing I've seen from the Sox in like 2 years.
Crazy.
So that was really fun. 18 runs.
And Dan, we did get some news about one of the players with the White Sox. Obviously, he's the highest paid White Sox player. Something did happen to him. You want to talk about that real quick, man?
Yeah, so it's pretty unfortunate news. And it's not why I'm wearing my Sox hat, but I just decided to wear it because I was wearing something different for you guys.
Oh, Chicago, yeah.
So bad news for the Sox. Andrew Benintendi will miss 4 to 6 weeks with a non-displaced fracture in his right hand, which obviously for baseball, his right hand injury is going to have to be fully healed, fully practiced, fully rested
when you got
until he's
actually
actually ready.
Grip a mitt, throw.
There's a lot. Yeah, especially for how much he's worth. There's definitely going to be a lot of leniency to let him rest. It's a non-surgical injury, so obviously this is going to be all about being patient. Benintendi was hit by a pitch from Logan Allen with 1 out in the bottom of the half in the first inning of the most recent game. So that's an unfortunate way to go. It really sucks to be happening in the Cactus League of all places, but we hope for a sturdy return. And like I said, the Hawks or the Sox have nothing to lose at this point. So having a player that's not there at the moment just means that it's going to be, I don't know, a few games worse or a few games better. Who knows? But at this point in the season, we can't be too pushing on the whole idea of, hey, the White Sox have somewhere to be, because look at the Cubs right now. We should be talking only about the Cubs, right? Cubs were undefeated at one point in the Cactus League. They did end up losing 2 games, but the other day they had 16-1 win against the Padres, man. Yeah. That's a very impressive stat there. And obviously we call it Summer League or Practice League, whatever you want to call it. But that's a very important stat because that means that they're fresh and they're ready. And that's really exciting to see here. But on to the next thing here, we have a couple fun facts to give you.
Let's get into our fun facts, man.
Miscellaneous facts, man.
Let's do it.
I added a lot of fun ones here. You could steal some if you'd like, Tyler. No worries. Sure. This is the first fact going on here is Modest Bazelis averaged 13.1 points per game in February. That is the 3rd highest among rookies of the month of February. Number 1 being Stephon Castle. He averaged 16.1 points per game.
Wow.
And that's about it.
Yeah. Let's talk about the other few fun facts. And these are kind of, you're going to be like, why are we talking about this? Because we're going to talk about the fun fact. But there's some players, obviously, on this team. And most points per game by a Canes player through their first 10 games with the franchise. DeMar DeRozan at 25.2 points per game. And Zach LaVine at 22.6 points per game.
Which is pretty impressive that the 2 players, right, to manage that were both from the Bulls, man. Like, that's a pretty impressive stat there. So good for the Kings. I mean, that's definitely very, very, very happy for them. But it just shows you exactly how good scoring was on the Bulls, where both of these players couldn't average any kind of numbers like that, especially through the first 10 games of the franchise. But good for the Kings. Good for them. That's just a kind of a stat I wanted to put in there because, fellow Bulls. Yeah. And then this next one here is pretty exciting as well. So Spencer Knight, newly acquired goaltender, became the 4th goaltender to make at least 40 saves in his Blackhawks debut, joining Ed Belfour. He had 45 saves on October 18th of 1988. Jeff Glass, 42 saves in December 29th of 2017. And Giles Melich, he had 42 saves on March 16th of 1971. Wow. And here's the fun fact that has to do with that. All 4 of these goalies wore the number 30.
Wow.
Awesome That's idea.
Crazy. Wow.
Yeah, all 4 of them that happened to do this all wore the number 40. And all of these players were pretty good, prominent goalies for the team at the time. So that's cool.
Wow. That's awesome, man. All right, we got a few more fun facts for you guys to end off this podcast. So March 4th, 2016, current Bears defensive lineman Andrew Billings breaks the NFL 40-yard dash record with a 4.22.
That's crazy.
during
And
the
if you've
combine.
seen Andrew Billings, and obviously for those of you who know, happy birthday! Today's Andrew Billings' birthday today.
Oh,
So
happy birthday!
happy
Andrew.
birthday! Hope you're watching, Andrew. Thank you for who you are. But yeah, I mean, the dude's like 300 pounds, and he beat the 40-yard dash
That's
record.
yeah, it's awesome.
For his position. So that's really awesome. And then the last one we have here is the Bulls have more road wins this season than home wins. That is 13 road wins and 11 home wins, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but definitely it's usually a little lopsided. Usually we're losing both games anyway, but it's nice to see that road wins are a little bit more of the important stat here.
Yeah. It's just a tough time for the Bulls right now, but you never know with the Bulls, man. We can get some wins against certain players or teams, and just all depends, man. All depends.
Exactly.
And let's do our last fun fact today. And this is going to be on this day in Chicago sports history, which is on March 6th, 1987. Free agent Andre Dawson signs a blank check to play for the Chicago Cubs. And in that year, he would go to take home the MVP honors in 1987 by hitting 49 home runs and driving in 137 runs.
Legend.
We love Andre Dawson.
Love Andre Dawson. I really do wonder what that blank check was. I do wonder.
I wish I didn't even blank. Dude,
blank check could be anything. And especially back then. Especially back then, man.
Could be anything.
Could be anything. But of anything that there is, at least the Bears are making moves.
Indeed.
The Cubs are winning games, and the Bulls are going to get a top 10 pick.
Yeah. So we had a lot of information for you guys. Obviously today we had Bears, trades going down. We did just have breaking news with another trade in the NFL.
What do you got?
Not regarding the Bears, but this is regarding a former player that got cut from a team. The Jaguars are trading Christian Kirk to the Houston Texans for a 7th round pick. That is breaking news. You like my breaking news, man? When I kind of
I do like it. Because you get everything before. I got my phone here, by the way. I don't get anything before Todd gets it. Tyler
Schefter at it, bro.
I did get one thing. This is just random, but this is more so interesting. The Cleveland Cavaliers decided to retire Kevin Love's number 0 jersey.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
I don't know. There's LeBron, there's Kyrie, there's I don't know, dude. I guess Kevin Love.
Before we end this, I thought I know he was kind of good for a few years with the Warriors, but like the Warriors signing on or retiring Andre Iguodala's jersey.
Yeah, also weird.
Little interesting on that one.
I mean, he played really well there, but I think also for how many players they should be retiring jerseys from that dynasty, man, I don't know about Andre. I don't know about that.
But that's going to do it all for you with this podcast today, guys, on D&T and the 773. Like we said, we talked about those trades with the Bears. Bears trained for Jonah Jackson and Joe Thuney. And then also, all those different signings and everything like that. We'll get you guys going next week with all the different trades and everything going like that. And then obviously this week's edition with the UC chat, talking about all those Bulls games the last week, Hawks games, and then also, baseball news. Chicago sports fun facts. We try to bring you guys everything we can. And, obviously we try to do it right around an hour. And that's what we got today. We got
it perfectly done.
We always do that. But before we end off, man, is there anything you want to say to the,
nothing much. Obviously, within the next week, I think we'll have a better idea of who the Bears are going to be drafting with the number 10 overall pick. So keep an eye out, because it's not all about, hey, who's the best player available? It's very much about, do we end up signing a running back, or do we end up signing a lineman, or do we end up signing a D-line? Those players will help us dictate what number 10 is going to look like. And at this exact moment, it could be anybody. Anybody in the top 5 to 12 picks could be landing there on the Bears. So it's going to be a very exciting time. So keep your eye out.
Keep your eyes up, man. I did just get a text from somebody that's tuning in. My girlfriend Cammie's tuning in. Hi, Cammie. Hope you're watching. I know you tuned in at the end because love you. We appreciate you tuning in. Obviously, it was the end of the podcast. We started around 2:00, but thank you for tuning in. Always appreciate it. Thanks, Cammie. But before we end off, thank you guys so much. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a great weekend. I'm going to be gone for the weekend. I'm going on a little trip to South Dakota, but we'll be back next week. I'm coming back on Tuesday. We'll find a day that we're going to meet with you guys and talk about all Bears news, free agency, everything like that. And we'll bring you guys the best in Chicago sports news. But thank you guys again. Enjoy your Thursday. Enjoy your weekend. And as always, bear down.
Bear down.
And UC. Fly, Bulls, fly, or whatever.
Fly, Bulls, fly. Fly, Bulls, fly. Let's go. We're finishing each one like that. Fly, Bulls, fly.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
See ya.
All right, dude.
Fly, Bulls, fly. That's how tired you get. So tired. It's like sometimes we're sitting here for an hour and a half. And it's just like, man, fly, Bulls, fly, bro. What?